Well, hello there. Welcome, everybody, to the session Management is Broken and What Managers Can Do to Fix It. I am your host, Brian Watkins. And for those of you who don't know me, I have been in learning and development, talent or development for 30 years now. And in getting good managers is my passion. So, sorry, got a little technology thing going on here. Um, I will tell you that uh, from a personal standpoint, I've been battling a little cold, so if my voice sounds crackly. I apologize, but we're going to do my best to get through this. Um, and really, what I'm going to kind of do is talk about, why I believe management is broken, the specifics and the data that shows it, how we got ourselves into this place, and then why I'm actually optimistic about what we can do about it, which is something I can't say for a lot of things. Um, but really, I am very optimistic about it. So I am going to pull up some slides here so that I can go through it. So, you know, I'm fully believe management is broken. I think it's been broken for a while, and that's a huge factor in things. But um, it's time that we change it, and we really need to now more than ever. So I'm going to go through some statistics, and as I'm going through this, I'd love for you to join in the chat and let me know, where you're listening or watching from, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them as we go. So please, let's make this as interactive as possible. So as I look at this, that top chart, many of you might recognize that's the Gallup employee engagement data uh, since 2000 up until 2022. And the thing that strikes me is how flat that line is, right? In 2000, it was 26, it's now 32. And really, it's kind of been pretty much flat the whole way. Surprisingly enough, its highest point, its apex, was during COVID, when we would think people were so caught up in their own personal lives and all the different things going on that but that wasn't the case. Employees were more engaged then. Um, Now, the reason I think that is such a big number is for two real reasons. Companies have spent tens of millions, if not billions of dollars on employee engagement, not only doing surveys, but doing things to improve things, making changes to the company, benefits, all those type of things. And they weren't seeing any return. They just were not seeing any return. For all that money, seeing that flat line has to be incredibly discouraging. And I think the reason that they saw that flat line goes to exactly what Gallup says in all of their research, is that the most important factor in employee engagement is the manager. They said that was one of the biggest correlating factors they found in their 80 years of doing, you know, any kind of research. And that's what they found. So the reason it's flat, it's not because companies didn't do things to help engagement or those various things. It was flat out because they haven't improved managers. They never worked on improving managers. They never focused on it. So we're not going to see that number go up. You can add all the different benefits you want, pet insurance, you know, health clubs on site, laundries. It doesn't matter if you don't make the manager better, because that's the factor. Um, I'm going to get rid of myself. I think it's a bad omen that we've been doing badly with managers, and we don't have people who want to be managers going forward. So how did we get into this? You know, here's my belief, and I think some of these are I'll get a lot of agreement on. But the first reason is the way we select managers. Yeah, traditionally it's been the highest performer gets to move up. That's the next step in the chain. We reward them with that extra responsibility and the extra pay and all those type of things without thinking they don't have if they have the skills for that role. Becoming a manager, as I learned when it happened to me, is a totally different job. It's not just doing your job at a different level. It's a totally different job. And it's just getting worse with specialization. Um, Managers can't know everything. So when they get put in front of a team, they may be leading people who do work and things that they don't understand. So we have to start selecting managers better, right? We've done it this way and it's just not going to work. What we expect from managers has radically changed. I think everyone on this call can probably, empathize with the concept of do more with less. Every manager faces that. Do more with less money. Do more with less people. Do more with fewer resources. Okay? And as that happens, when that pops up for us, right, it gets harder and harder. And what managers have started doing is because they don't have the people to do the work, but they still have to get everything done, they take on more themselves. The more individual contributor type work they take on, the less time they have to manage, right? I call those people glorified individual contributors. They approve a few budget things, give you your day off, those type of things. But in the end, they're doing the same work, which is not going to work, right? Managers aren't going to do that. So the more we expect from managers and the more we take away from them through layoffs, through simply cost cutting, through all those things, the bigger trouble we're going to have. I think the way we treat managers, and I'm not talking about the individual managers there, but the images that we create throughout society. So if you think of the media, who are the managers that people can think about from different media outlets? Well, there's Michael Scott from The Office, right? The nice guy with good intentions, but the bumbling idiot. There is the pointy-haired boss from Dilbert, who's just plain evil, right? And clearly a fool. And the concept of the Peter Principle. He got boned up, moved up because he doesn't know anything. Or the manager from Office Space, if you're a little older from that movie, one who say, "Yeah, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday and work." We don't see any positive portrayals of managers out there. So that's how our images of managers. Oh, they're people who got it, even though they're not great managers. They were just good performers. Oh, they just get left there because no one wants to deal with them. Those type of things. And this last point is, the techniques we teach managers. And I've been thinking a lot about this particular point lately. And I look at it and go, the things we teach managers that go into manager training are pretty much the same things that they were 50 years ago. We may be putting a little more emphasis on diversity now or communication or those type of things. But really, what we teach managers hasn't changed in 50 years. I want you to think about anything in a profession, in a business, in an organization that hasn't changed in 50 years. Nothing, right? Everything's gone through radical changes in 50 years, and we just kind of ignore it. But managers, we teach them the same things. And, again, maybe some subtle shifts, but really there's been no brand new things. There's been no great new innovations in management. So these, like I said, none of these things are positive, right? These are bad things that we've gotten that have come in here. But as I mentioned at the top, I have a lot of optimism. And this is one of the few areas that I am optimistic. If anyone out there who knows me knows I can be a pretty pessimistic person. I tend to call myself a realist more than a pessimist. Um, but in reality, I tend to look at things kind of negatively. And for example, I think skills-based training is the future for companies. With the way things are going and how fast things are changing, skill-based training is there. And I think very few companies will be able to pull it off. And no big company will, just because things are so ingrained that to make those kind of changes is huge. So for me to say I'm optimistic about management, uh, that means a lot because I'm usually not optimistic about those things. So, two reasons I'm optimistic. One is we know what makes a great manager because we have them now. There are great managers out there. There's too few of them, way too few of them, but they exist. So when I speak in front of groups about management, one of the things I do is I start at the beginning. I go, okay, raise your hand if you've ever had a bad manager. And every hand goes up. And then I'll say, keep your hand up if you've had more than one bad manager. A few hands go down, but still the majority are up. And then I jokingly say, well, I'd ask you if your current manager is bad, but they may be sitting next to you, so I won't do that. And that usually gets a laugh, right? Sometimes I will go a step further and I will say, how many of you have had a great manager? Not a good manager, a great manager. And I'll get a few hands going up, right? They exist and we know how to do it. Right? There isn't some secret formula. This isn't some, we're not curing cancer. We're not doing something that's unknown. We have the information and the tools. That's where we're going to focus on. The second thing is we don't need to do this through big structural change. And to go back to my example about the skills-based learning, the reason I don't think that that's going to ever fit in organizations is because you would have to restructure the entire organization. Skills-based stuff would impact compensation. It would impact performance management. It would impact recruiting and hiring. It would impact, promotions and all those type of things. It would be a huge mess to get all of those people involved in everything. You'd essentially have to break it and start over for the most part. We don't have to do that to make great managers. Now, would it be nice if you could go into IBM and say, hey, you need great managers, and we're going to rebuild your entire company with great managers? That would be awesome. I'd love that. That'd be great. The problem is anybody who's done a big enterprise-wide initiative like that, excuse me, there's two things. One is it's hard to convince management of that, right? It takes a lot of time and effort simply to get them to say yes. And the second thing is it takes a lot of time to move forward on it and get it done. You don't change a huge company like that, right? It takes time. And most companies, when they do huge initiatives, unless they are completely focused on finance, people lose interest, right? So when you go out and you try and change a culture, it's hard to do at a big level because people lose focus. Yeah, it's the gung ho for the first 3-4 months, but then they focus on something else. They move on to the next big project. So if we were doing that, if we needed that for management, I wouldn't be optimistic. But the fact is, we can do this one by one, right? The fact that there are great managers out there means you can function within the existing organization being a great manager. Nothing about being a great manager is you breaking rules or getting in trouble or going outside of the system. You just have to do the right things and know that they're right things and do it for the right reasons. Right. And that's the key thing. So we're going to be able to take the things we know that make a great manager. And we're going to be able to do that one by one. We don't have to go in and say, I'm going to fix 100 managers in this organization. We can say, you know what, I'm going to fix one. And then when that one goes, maybe that goes to 2 and 3. And they start to see how they perform better. And those teams do. And it can be a little bit of a thing. And I don't need you to, as an organization, to say, Brian, here's $4 million to go do this over the next 3 years. If you want to give me that money, I'm there for it. But the fact of the matter is we don't have to. That's what makes me excited is I can work with one person and make them better. I can work with 5 people and make them better. I can work with 10 people and make them better. And we can get there that way. I don't have to go in and change a whole structure. I don't have to worry about all of those change management concepts. Some of them I still do, but not nearly as many. So at this point, I'm going to pause and take a drink. And like I said, if anybody has any questions or comments, love to see them in the chat and we'll address them. And if not, I am going to move on to what I think is what I'm going to try and do, how I'm going to work to make management better. So I'm creating the Great Manager community. And I'm calling it the Great Manager community because that's what I want it to be. I don't want to be me giving you a program, me teaching you something. I want it to be this give and take of a community where we can throw ideas out there, throw problems out there, do different things, and really work together to build this. And say, so it's not Brian's program, it's the Great Manager program. And we've all kind of built this up together. And I had been trying to do this on my website, but if you deal with websites, it's hard to do when it's not your full-time job and those type of things. So I have started working with Substack. And I love what they're going to give me in the group the ability to do. So it's got the address up there to subscribe if you want to. And I've essentially got 2 levels of membership right now. I call it membership. But the first one is free, right? No obligation and no cost, nothing. And you get 2 emails a week. You get one on Monday where I share processes. So we talk about the best way to give feedback. We talk about the reason you should be giving feedback so you understand the why. We talk about all these different processes, delegation, coaching, setting expectations, building relationships, all these different things. So that email is going to have some good information. They're very actionable. Go do this. A couple of weeks ago, we did 5 time management tips for busy managers, some things you can do. So try to make it very actionable, something that we can build on so you can go and do this. Wednesday, there is a newsletter that came out. Just came out about an hour ago. Comes out about 5 o'clock Central Time. That's essentially got great resources that I found on the web. So articles, videos, some inspirational quotes, some data that you can use. And I really just try and compile a bunch of great information so that I can share it and let you kind of go, hey, I'm interested in this topic. Let me read a bit deeper and do that. So those 2 are free. You get those regardless of it. If you want to do the paid membership, you'd also get an email. You'd get those 2 things, but you'd also get an email on Friday that I call the In the News, where I try and take a topic that's currently in the news for whatever reason and review it from a manager viewpoint. So an example of that might be all of the layoffs that are going on. Obviously managers are caught up in some of those layoffs, but I think about it, okay, so if your company is going to announce a layoff of 10% of the workforce, as a manager, what are the things you need to be thinking about? What are the things you need to be doing, right? So I'm going to take these stories and these various things that are in the news and trying to distill it down to what a manager needs to be thinking about. Because a lot of times, because of the manager's role, right, they're impacted by these things and they have to do certain things if they want to successfully navigate these things. So I did one on the Boeing safety culture, right? Obviously, an individual manager isn't going to fix all of the problems they have with bolts not being tightened and doors flying off and stuff like that. But managers have to do certain things within it, and they have to understand what they're doing and how it's impacting their team. So that's really, I kind of love doing that. I've also got a bunch of free resources. So things that I've gathered over the years or things that I'm developing, job aids, different tools you can use that enable you to, become a better manager. And those are going to be free for any of our members. They get to go in there and take those and use those however they want. And if, they want something done a little differently, they can let me know and we can adjust things, those type of things. get rid of my thing. My goal of this community. So my one last slide. So again, if you have questions, please pop them in. There's a little bit of delay before they get to me, so I want to make sure I get a chance to ask them. But here's what I'd love for you to do. I would love for you to join that community, right? And if you didn't get the address or the link, you can always email me. Let me put my email up here. There's my email if you need it. And go and join the community. Join the free community. I'd love to have you there. Um, if you want to be the paid, great, because then we can start to do some more cool things. And I really want to build that up. Um, and then interact with that community, comment on items, go in there and say, hey, I want to do this, or I'm thinking about this. Ask questions. Say, Brian, I'd love for if you would address this issue in one of your emails. And I will take all that feedback and do it. And here's the big thing. Communities help each other grow. So what I'd love for you to do is not only join, but find two other managers who maybe they're struggling. Maybe there's some of those who are going through the burnout. Maybe it's a young person who wants to be a manager and wants to start learning about these things and thinking about these things. So that is the stuff that we want to do. So again, what I would love for you all to do, join the community, be there with me, interact, and let's build this community up as one of support and help and value to everyone. And then go join two people to do it. So imagine if we had 100 people go sign up and then they each got two more, we would make this community huge in no time, helping each other in no time. And that's the goal. That's what we want to do. let me go back. So in case any of you want to see that site, yeah, the link is up there. The btonconsultants.substack.com/subscribe. And that lets you get the free option. It lets you pick the paid option. It's all right there. And if you're not familiar with Substack, take a look around. It's a very cool little platform designed for writers, but it has different things. We can do podcasts, we can do videos, we can do all kinds of neat stuff with it. So I'm excited about the potential we have with this community and with that site in an easy way that's not overly expensive. And that's really my goal. So I'm not seeing any questions pop yet, so I'm just going to kind of start my conclusion and say, thank you for those of you who are here watching. I appreciate it. Um, as you probably could tell, I'm very passionate about managers. I want them to succeed. I want them to do great because I believe it's important. I see, and I've seen this in my own life when I've had great managers, and I've been fortunate to have more than one. My career flourishes. I can go on more. I do more. I feel better about myself. It creates a better situation for my family. When I've had bad managers, feel my career stagnate. I get frustrated. It impacts my physical and mental health. It impacts my family relationships. They get me coming home being a miserable person. Work impacts us. We spend so much time there, it impacts us and it impacts our family, which is one of the reasons I think great managers matter so much. Because great managers also realize that and help you make that connection, say, you need to go spend more time with your family. So join me. Reach out to me, and I would love to have you all part of the Great Manager community so that we can make sure that everyone, all those younger people who are coming up in the world, get a chance to have that manager who makes them feel fulfilled, who makes them feel appreciated, who helps their career grow in new ways. We've got a lot of challenges ahead of us in the workforce in the coming years with AI and all the other things and whatever comes next after that. So it's important that we have some managers who can help us there and do that. So with that, I am going to say thank you again. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. And I look forward to working with you in this community to make sure we can make the workplaces throughout the world better. Have a great night.